So as we know, Overwatch Spotlight is going to be a quote-unquote groundbreaking reveal in terms of the changes to the PvP gameplay that Overwatch has been getting. And while initially I was actually really excited for it, there's a few thoughts that passed over my mind the past few nights that I was like, oh god, this could actually backfire because Blizzard has this tendency to where they overhype things, and then when we get there, it's like the most like industry standard thing ever. But because Blizzard isn't industry standard, it's like a big deal to them. So we need to sit down and talk about it. Now, let's get started. What is Overwatch 2 Spotlight? So to those of you that are a little bit out of the loop, Overwatch 2 Spotlight is going to be this big live stream where they're inviting a lot of creators. They're going to be showcasing the future of Overwatch and the gameplay changes. Now we know the next season starts on the 18th, so the 15th, I think it is the 18th, and 15th is where they're going to be showcasing all the new gameplay changes, giving some of the content creators that they've invited an early access so that they can get, they can check out the new gameplay and everything. Now, as you guys know, way back when Junkenstein's lab came out, I said that honestly I can see this being the future of Overwatch gameplay, and that is simply because there's a lot of things. Number one, in the Junkenstein's lab you could not counterpick. One of the biggest frustrating points is counterpicking. Number two, Blizzard has always marketed their game in a way where it's like, hey, the whole idea is that you come into our game, you pick the character that you like, you pick, like play as that character and be the hero that you've always wanted to be through the Overwatch character. So this, it then incentivizes just pretty much kind of one tricking because you can counter swap and you can play the hero that you like. Number three, another thing that they're emphasizing with this change, not only all of that, is number three, it evolves the gameplay in a way unlike ever before. For example, like it's going to be insane that there's going to be like, potentially talent trees, builds, like, like the League of Legends rune system being added to the characters. There's a variety of ways they can go about doing the whole quote unquote Junkenstein's lab. Or okay, maybe let's not use the word Junkenstein's lab to, emphasize of this. Let's use the word like a talent and like, a build system, like, because you'll be building your characters. And on that note, like for number three, or I guess point number four, is that it allows characters to adapt to different situations. I spoke about this in, previous videos where I said, Genji had like these builds in the Junkenstein's lab where you could, give him homing shuriken. Now you didn't like the homing shuriken most of the time because, there were other better options to use, but the homing shurikens came in handy to deal with characters like Pharah. So now you don't have to go hit scan. You can adjust your Genji's build in order to deal with the Pharah. Granted that the Junkenstein's lab build and talent card or talent tree system was a little bit more randomized. We could use a little bit more of like, a proper structured tree if this is the gameplay change going forward. Now, to be fair, I'm very open-minded to this because I'm not going to lie, guys. I've been playing Overwatch for nearly a decade. I started playing this game way back in early beta, a bit like in Overwatch 1, and I've been here for every meta. I've been here in the state of the game. I've reached top 500. I'm coaching other players. I still play the game semi-competitively, semi-casually. I don't necessarily have the drive to get a high rank anymore because, I mean, what does it do for me? There's no, like, I'm not going pro. I'm too old for that. I'm coaching people. I'm trying to help other people get better, and like I've done it all. So the way I basically see it is that's how a lot of the older players feel as well. It's like, we've kind of done it all. There's nothing new to explore in Overwatch. Now, to be fair, it's not just that, like Overwatch as a game as well, it's kind of, while it did a good job, standing the test of time, we've now reached a point where other games have caught up to, like the hero shooter genre, in this case Marvel Rivals, and they're doing a lot more interesting concepts. Now Marvel Rivals is sticking true to the idea of being, a hero shooter, but not just any hero shooter. They want to be a little bit unbalanced. They want to have all these unique team up aspects. They want to stay in the 6v6, in the non-role queue format. So there's a lot of things we could talk about Rivals, but this is an Overwatch video. I kind of want to stick to Overwatch for a little bit. And the thing is in a certain perspective, when you think about the gameplay evolving, there's a bunch of positives. It can finally justify the two in the brand, right, in the name and the IP, and it actually makes the game look like a new game because, well, it's like, okay, well, we didn't throw away all the PvE assets, we reworked them, adjusted them for the current game, and then go from there. Now there's some downsides, and that's kind of what I'm really worried about for the future of Overwatch, right? And the downsides, well, there's quite a few. Number one, now this is not my opinion on it. I'm just raising some questions and we can discuss it in the comments. The downsides Or potentially, does the game really need to evolve, right? There is this question. Number two, can the game still be solved by balance? My answer to that have always been yes. I don't like the balance philosophy that's been happening recently. I guess you could like summarize it. This is a big TLDR for the state of balance, but the game is being balanced a lot more around the skill floor than it is being balanced around the skill ceiling, which is very frustrating from a certain perspective, because Blizzard can do better and make the game a lot more enjoyable from the balance front, right? But they don't, because they're not making anybody happy, right? Like I don't understand who is ever happy with the state of balance. Now, to be fair to them, the current balance state is not bad, but again, also to be fair to them, it has to do with the fact, like, they've kind of like relatively gutted every character to a point where they're somewhat relative to one another. But then another argument can be made that the meta maybe hasn't been fully figured out yet. I mean, Torbjorn and Symmetra are now finally meta. Like, that's the state of the game. When Torb and Sim have become meta, you're doing something ridiculously wrong with your game. And I'll be covering Torb and Sim in tomorrow's video, but we need to kind of stay on track and talk about the current state of the game. So anyways, the thing is, we ask ourselves, does the game really need to evolve? Because one of the beauties of Overwatch is that despite all its complexities, it's still a pretty simple, straightforward hero shooter, right? Like, you pick up a character, they have the abilities, they have an ultimate, and go to the next character. That way you get to learn the characters over time. Now, if we go down the League of Legends route, the MOBA type route, the build and systems route, well, you have the character, and you don't know their entire upgrade tree. You don't know this, you don't know that. But again, to be fair, there's ups to that and there's downs to that. The one of the ups is, well, you get to learn something new in the game. So if you're somebody who's a bit of a veteran like me, one of the things that you enjoy about competitive gaming is actually learning new things and experimenting with new comps, experimenting with different builds and ideas, and enjoying your similar characters. It's kind of why I've gotten into League of Legends. I've been trying a little bit of Supervive. I've been trying, I know Paladins is not necessarily doing the best right now. It's pretty much in maintenance mode, sadly. But I have played some Paladins here and there, and I'm open-minded to Overwatch getting it. But there are some concerns. It's like, well, Alec Dawson, he's always said that he wishes there were more knobs that the balance team could change. Well, what if even if they're bringing these knobs, which is the talent system, that like all this type of stuff, like the MOBA route, what if this doesn't change the balance philosophy? What if it doesn't change how we're playing the game? What if even from a balance perspective, they mess with too many things that they shouldn't be messing with? It can create a whole new list of problems. And then like the next point that I'm trying to move to is, my concern is, we know that been an Overwatch mobile game in the works. What if all this Overwatch spotlight hype, while it's nice and all, like, yeah, sure, there'll be some PvP changes. What if all of a sudden they promote that, well, now for Overwatch PvP, you can play it on your mobile phone and interact with other players, and that might be a disaster, because it's not like Blizzard doesn't have a history of, don't you guys have mobile phones, type of BS behind their name. And it is entirely possible that all these creators and everybody, like, they get flown out, and then all of a sudden Blizzard pulls oh, hey guys, by the way, don't you have mobile phones? Because Overwatch is now going to revolutionize mobile gaming, excuse me. Also, on that same note, if Overwatch did go onto mobile, I'm not going to lie, I would rather that they try something new with the IP, like a card game or a MOBA or just anything, that they could do something different with the IP, because it's crazy to me that almost 10 years later, Overwatch has done nothing with its IP and characters. Like, there's no spin-off games. Like, if you look at League of Legends, they've done so much, like, different stuff with their characters and everything, that, like, I'm just surprised that Overwatch has done nothing. Like, even till now, the Overwatch progress 10 years later almost has not, the story has not progressed at all, right? So again, all that aside, there is a lot of things to be worried about and concerned. It's like, okay, in a way, I'm excited for the future of Overwatch, and I've always said this to people during the Overwatch 2 era. I said, I'm sorry, like, Overwatch is just not a competitive game anymore. A competitive game doesn't balance around the skill floor. A competitive game doesn't aim to make the game easier. Aaron Keller in the latest devlog even said that, well, we want to try and make the game easier. I'm sorry, but this is not a competitive game. This is a casuals game first, where there's an enthusiastic competitive community. And every now and then we get a bit of a bone where the game is a little bit balanced around competitive, but a majority of the time it's going to be balanced around the casuals. And that's exactly what's about to happen with the Overwatch Spotlight. They want to win over new casuals. They want to wow people. They want, like, oh my god, your heroes can do this and that. They don't care about the competitive direction about the game. They don't care about how they're going to, take the game forward from a perspective of, well, we want it to be a competitive esport. They generally don't give a shit about that. If you look at some of the ways like the competitive esports is being handled, it's a controversial topic. I don't want to talk about it, but let's just say that, Blizzard's just okay with it now. Like they're chill with it. They're like, okay, it's its own thing, it has its own niche of people enjoying it, but we need to look at where the money's coming from, and the money always comes from casual consumers. Now imagine like a Genji one trick, a Mercy one trick, a Ryan one trick. They see that they can upgrade their characters. Ryan can do like a frost strike, Genji has like, the dragon blade projectile shooting out, Mercy can now mass res again or something, like, and you can upgrade your characters, and then they can even do different things. And that's where all this excitement starts to come from. That's how you generate interest from a casual player, that they think, oh, I thought I figured out this character, but now there's something new happening. But all that is fine and dandy. What happens when your game begins to look like an unbalanced mess? Then the question becomes, do you want it to be an unbalanced mess? What happens when it looks like, some of the characters at the skill floors have better abilities and builds than the characters at the skill ceiling? What do you do there? So there's a lot of things to be worried about, and those are just my thoughts for this video. I really want to hear, guys, what are your thoughts for Overwatch Spotlight? Hell, I even went as far as to say, okay, it'll be crazy if they somehow announce a battle royale. Okay, like I don't see what Overwatch does differently in the PvP world, right? Like, I don't think you invite people all the way just to show them 6v6 in hero bands. Like, we know hero bands is coming. Aaron said there's a system that's coming. Hero bands is pretty much confirmed. Like, who cares? Like, whatever, right? They're like 9 years late to the hero bands party. But, other than maybe going the MOBA direction or somehow surprisingly announcing a battle royale, I don't see what Overwatch can do that will be groundbreaking. And I really do believe that it's the Junkenstein's Lab MOBA-esque route that they will take the game. And then if that is the case, nobody can ever tell me again that this is a competitive video game. I've been saying it for the past 2 years. This is not a competitive video game. It left the competitive sphere a very long time ago. Season 9 was the starting point of them doubling down to making the game easier. And then, like, if assuming things like happen the way that they do in Spotlight, that's the final nail in the coffin that, well, Overwatch is a very casual competitive game. And like, that's just my opinion on it. Anyways, guys, I want to hear your thoughts. What do you think is Spotlight? Are you worried about Spotlight? What, like, will you still play Overwatch if it goes the MOBA route, if it somehow turns into a battle royale or introduces a battle royale? Like, what do you guys think? Because I think this is really interesting to discuss. So with that being said, see you in the comments down below. And as always, to support the channel for free, all you have to do is hit like and subscribe.